Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing a super easy interactive card design featuring some brand new products from PinkFreshStudio, including the side slider die. Now I'm going to go ahead and just show you this entire release from PinkFreshStudio because it has such a variety of items for winter or for the holidays and for year round. So starting out with the Folk Snowflake product suite, it includes stamps, dies, and coordinating layering stencils. Also Holiday Spirits, which includes stamps, dies, and layering stencils. Then there is this Beyond Happy sentiment set that includes coordinating dies. I love that, or I should say they're available. This is the Nothing But the Best product suite. It has stamps, dies, and the stencils. Next up is Farm Fresh. Also has stamps, dies, and coordinating stencils, and it creates this cute little milk jug. These are the Kaleidoscope stencils, which creates a fun background. And then the Kaitlin alphabet die set. I absolutely love this. I'm going to be using this in today's card project to create my own custom sentiment. These beautiful dies are the ornate rectangle frame die set. So pretty, 2 sizes, and it kind of cuts a dual frame. And then finally, the side slider die, which is what we're going to use to create the interactive portion of our card today. Now, in addition to all those stamps, dies, and stencils, there is also a whole slew of new embellishments. They are all these colored drops from PinkFreshStudio. There is a clear version, but you can see there's a variety of colors. So these are like dewdrops, but they have color to them, and they are a great embellishment for your projects. Now, before we jump into our card today, I wanted to walk you through the simple construction of the side slider die set. And I love this die set because it creates an easy interactive card that can be used either horizontally or vertically. So let's jump into the construction and keep this part really simple. Now, here's a look at the 3 dies that you need to put the interactive portion together. This rectangle has a little slit that will die cut in it, and then this tabbed piece here, as well as that small rectangle. So once I've cut these all out of cardstock, and I wanted to mention I've cut them out of different colors of cardstock so that you can really see what I'm doing. Once you have them cut out, then you can start assembling. And I'm going to start with this small rectangle, and I'm going to slide it through the slit on this larger rectangle piece. And I'm going to make the bottom of that smaller blue rectangle line up with the lower part of this pink portion. Now, I like to take a little low-tack tape and hold that in place. That's just going to hold everything in place as I flip this over. Now, on the back side of this, you're going to want to add adhesive to this blue rectangle that you can see. So I'm just going to use a little tape runner adhesive. You could also use liquid glue. And then I'm going to grab this tabbed piece and I'm going to center it up with that right side aligned with the right side of the pink cardstock. So you're going to see that I have a margin around the top, the left side, and the bottom. And once I get that where I want it, I am just going to press it into place. And you can see when I flip this over to the front side, my tab is visible. Now I'm going to go ahead and leave that tape in place because now I'm going to show you where you want to put your adhesive. Now for this, I am using some thin foam adhesive strips from scrapbook.com. I know that Leah has some that she likes to use as well. And I'm just going to add adhesive foam to this top portion or that top margin and the bottom margin. And then finally, I'll add a small strip of adhesive to that left-hand margin as well. So I'm going to have foam adhesive on 3 sides of this. That's going to keep my tabbed piece from kind of falling out as we put this on our card front, and it's also going to raise it up a little bit so that that interactive slider portion works really easily. Now that I have all of that in place, I can go ahead and remove the backers on this foam adhesive and place this onto my card front. So I'm going to hold this in place. You can see I have my low tack tape still in place there on the front, and I'm going to center it up on this A2 card, and then I can remove this repositionable tape, and I have my tab here that's exposed. Now this tab is where you're going to adhere anything that you want to move. Now, in most cases, I would make this tab the same color as my background here, but I wanted you to be able to see this very easily. So I went ahead and created that out of a different color. Now I'm going to add adhesive to the front side of that tab, and then I can adhere my floral piece. And by the way, this floral piece is another sneak peek at some brand new products from the November 2023 release. I'm just going to adhere it to that tab, and then you can see I have my working interactive card. Now, this is an example of a horizontal card, but if I take this floral piece and I rotate it and place it onto that tab, I can create a vertical card using this same die set. Now, I think it would be really fun to take a circle and pile up a bunch of elements and place it on that tab so it moves up and down, or a sentiment, you could have that sliding across your card. You could also use the other included rectangle to have a piece that slides over and reveals a sentiment or an image underneath this area. So these come together really easily, and I wanted to keep this assembly process very simple for you so that you could see the simple assembly of this card. But now that we've created that, I am going to create a stepped up version of this card. So I am starting out with the Folk Snowflake stamp here in my Misty stamping tool and some white cardstock, and I'm going to heat emboss this using some silver embossing powder. So I am prepping the surface using my powder tool, and then I'm going to ink up my stamp using some Versamark ink and stamp that onto the surface of my white cardstock. I'm just going to give that a good press with my press tool from PinkFreshStudio, and then I'm going to remove that cardstock from my Misty stamping tool and add some silver embossing powder over the entire surface. Now, the embossing powder I'm using today is not gilded. It's sterling embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. I almost made a little mistake there. So this is sterling, and I know I don't use silver very often, but I thought that we would kind of mix it up today. Now I'm using my Wow heat embossing tool to just heat set that, and you can see I have this beautiful snowflake. It looks great as is, but I am going to go ahead and use the coordinating layering stencils to add some color to the snowflake. So I'm using my Waffle Flower 8.5 by 8.5 grip mat to hold my paper and my stencils in place on my glass mat. And I'm lining up stencil number 1 with the stamped image, and I'm just going to press that onto the grip mat. These grip mats are like large pieces of photopolymer, which is the same material your stamp is made from, so they have a naturally sticky property without using adhesive. Now over stencil number 1, I'm going to use eucalyptus over the entire thing, and then I'm going to bring in spruce tips just kind of near the base or center parts of these images to add a little bit of deepness and shading to that image. You could totally skip this part, but I love how easy it is to add those small areas of kind of darker shadowing using these small 1/2-inch blending brushes from PinkFreshStudio. Now for stencil number 2, I used Ballet slipper over the entire thing. And for stencil number 3, I'm moving into my favorite color from PinkFreshStudio. Yes, I said it. And that's Cherry Blossom. I'm going to blend over the entire area. And then once again, I'm going to bring in a darker color. This is Peony, and my 1/2-inch blending brush from PinkFreshStudio, and add just a little bit of shading to that. And that completes all of my ink blending for my snowflake. You can see this beautiful snowflake that I have. And before I die cut, I'm going to go ahead and take the Warmest Wishes sentiment. This is also from the Folk Snowflake stamp set, and I am just mounting it into my Misty stamping tool. I'm going to stamp it in that lower corner using my Versamark ink, and then I'm going to cover that using that sterling embossing powder and heat set that. And I just went ahead and did this so that I could do all of my die cutting at once. Now there are coordinating dies for both of these images that I have on my paper here. So once I get this heat set, I'm going to go ahead and move into die cutting. So I've lined up the coordinating dies and run that through my Anna Griffin Empress machine. And you can see I have my beautifully die cut snowflake. I am a sucker for a die that will cut out inner pieces. And this is one of those. And then I'm going to pop out my sentiment as well. Now I have another piece of white cardstock here, and I am going to start die cutting some layers for my sentiment and my snowflake. as well as some letters and shadows from this Kaitlin alphabet die set, which I absolutely love. And I went ahead and cut the actual layers 2 times out of white cardstock. I also cut the shadow out of white cardstock, but I ended up using a glitter layer for the shadow layer on these. So I'm just getting all of this die cutting done. I'm using my dual tip embellishment tool to kind of poke out the little extras, and I absolutely love this alphabet. It is so beautiful. It has the little details with the little kind of diamond layer and the stripes that kind of poke out. I love that. And once I have all of this die cut, I'm going to go ahead and layer up these 2 layers of white cardstock on each of the letters. And I am using the brand new reverse grip tweezers from PinkFreshStudio. These are amazing and they're gold. So you know I'm going to love them, right? And I love using tweezers because they help keep my hands out of the way where I can see what I'm doing. They help me grab little things. I can use them to put embellishments on. There's so many uses for tweezers. And with these reverse grip, you can actually use them to kind of hold layers together as they set up. Now, I also die cut this snowflake from some silver glitter cardstock, and I'm going to take it to my trimmer and I'm going to cut it in half. And I'm creating a faux shadow layer for that folk snowflake that I stamped and stenciled and die cut earlier. And in order to do that, I needed to cut this silver glitter layer in half. And I'm going to add some liquid glue to half of this snowflake here. And I'm going to layer up this first half that lines up with that, just a little bit offset. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the second layer as well. So you can see I'm using my reverse grip tweezers to hold that layer in place as I work on the other side. And this is going to create a shadow kind of above and below the snowflake. There's really no way to do it on all 4 areas, but this is a great way to kind of create a faux shadow layer. Now I also have these layered up joy letters here. They are layered onto that same silver glitter cardstock, and I am going to adhere them to a banner shape that I cut using the PinkFreshStudio basic banners die. I've die cut them out of vellum. And so now I have all of my pieces ready and I'm going to work on my side slider element. So we're going to put this together just like we did earlier. But this time I'm going to cut the tab and that large rectangle with the slit in it from the same color of cardstock. And I'm using this really beautiful kind of tealy jade deep green. It just felt very holiday and dramatic to me. And I'm die cutting this tabbed piece from some white cardstock. Now I have the 3 pieces that I need, and I am going to go ahead and add some ink blending to this large rectangle with the slit in it using some Lush Forest ink from PinkFreshStudio. This is just going to make the background for my sliding snowflake super dramatic, and I love this new Lush Forest ink color from PinkFreshStudio. It is so beautiful, and it looks great on this cardstock. By the way, I will have links to the featured products used in this project in the description at YouTube, but if you head on over to my blog, and we are having a blog hop to celebrate this release today, if you head on over there, I will have a complete list of supplies. So now that I have that ink blending around the edge, I'm going to take this small rectangle tab piece and slide it through the front side of this slit piece. So you can see I have that small tab on the front that's still showing, and I'm going to hold that in place with a little repositionable tape while I turn this over and work on the back side. So on the back side, you're going to see the larger area of this tab, and I'm just making sure that I have everything kind of squared up before I assemble it. And on that tab portion only, I'm not going off of that tab portion, I'm adding some tape runner adhesive. So you can see my adhesive is just on this tab. Then I am going to take this white tabbed piece and I am going to position it behind this large rectangle that has that adhesive on the tab, and I'm going to press it down, and that's going to adhere that kind of index card tabbed piece to the back side of my slider tab. Now, once I have that position in place, I can actually turn this back over and remove that repositionable tape. And you can see my sliding mechanism is coming together, but I can still remove that. So this would have been the time where I should have adhered everything to that white back piece, but I didn't. I did it the hard way. But you can see that this is coming together. Now, I did feel like this green piece was a little bit, it needed some reinforcement. So I die cut this piece again with the slit in it from some white cardstock, and I just layered it onto the back of my green piece to give it a little bit of heft and weight and sturdiness on the front of my card. And then you can see I can just slide this right back into place. Now, it does make it a little bit harder when I flip this over for you to see where I'm putting my foam adhesive, but you can see I'm replacing my white tabbed piece onto the back and holding it in place with a little bit of repositionable tape. And then I am going to use some foam adhesive all around the edges, not touching, but all around the edges of this white tabbed piece. And I'm using these little foam adhesive strips from scrapbook.com. They're great. You could also just cut down the foam adhesive that you already have into little strips, but I find this super convenient to have these already done. Now, once I have my foam adhesive on the back, I can go ahead and flip this over, and I'm going to add some foam adhesive to the back of my snowflake as well. And you're going to see that I'm actually adding it in multiple areas on the back of my snowflake, but I'm only going to remove the backer from this foam on the piece that's going to adhere to that little tab on the front. So see all these pieces here? I'm going to leave the backer in place. I'm only going to remove the backer from this piece of foam adhesive here, because I need to keep my snowflake from sticking to the upper part of this rectangle. I only want to adhere anything that I want to move to that small tab below. So that one piece of foam adhesive is going to hold this snowflake onto the front of my slider mechanism, and the rest of the foam adhesive is just there to keep the top part from sagging. So you can see that this will move across my card just like that. So easy. So now that I kind of do things a little out of order, that's just typical for me because I think of things as I go along. I'm going to add some of the snowflakes. These are die cut from the large snowflake die set from PinkFreshStudio, one of my all-time favorites. I've die cut them from some white cardstock, and I'm just adhering them to that slide out portion along with this warmest wishes sentiment. I'm a little tongue-tied this morning. It's still a little early here in California. So I'm adhering all of those to that side slider piece. And then I decided to go ahead and add some snowflakes to the front of this card as well. Now, full disclosure, if you do not get these snowflakes adhered all the way down, and even if you do a good job of that, it can catch on that larger snowflake that we have in the foreground that's sliding back and forth. So in hindsight, I probably would have added less foam adhesive to the back of this large snowflake to keep it from kind of catching on some of these snowflakes. But in the end, it worked out okay. But I just wanted to kind of give you that as full disclosure here. So now that I have my snowflakes in the background, I'm going to go ahead and adhere this joy sentiment that I created. You can see it's catching a little there. But overall, I was happy with the way this looked, so I went ahead and left it all in place. Now I'm going to flip this slider mechanism over. I'm going to remove the backer from the foam adhesive strips that are around the three edges, and I'm going to position this onto a juniper card base. This is an A2 size card base. It's horizontal, and I'm just going to center that up in the center of my card base and press it down. Now I'm looking at this and it is beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous, but there was something about it that I felt like it needed a little bit of more texture on the background. So I'm going to do something really stupid. And in a second here, I'm going to let you hear the live audio from this video because I was terrified at this point. But I'm just cutting some scrap paper to create some makeshift masks to put over the areas that I don't want to splatter, because I'm going to add some white splatter, ink splatters to the front of my card. And like I said, I was scared. I thought this was maybe a really stupid idea, but in my heart, I felt like it needed this. And I'm so glad I did it. So let's listen to live Carissa in this video right now.
This is like the dumbest thing I've ever done, I think. This could be, oh my gosh.
So yes, It was a risky move, but in the end, I think it really paid off. If I was going to go back and make this card again, I would obviously do the splatters before I put everything together. It would just make life a whole lot easier. And in the end, I was so pleased with how this looked. I thought it was like the perfect finishing touch. The only thing that could have made this maybe a tiny bit better is if this was like a sparkly white ink that I was splattering on it. Now I did go ahead and slide that out and add a few more splatters underneath that large snowflake as well, and I allowed that to dry. And in the end, I was super happy with that. But let me know in the comments below, would you have been brave enough to attempt the ink splatter at that point in the card? It was maybe a dumb move, but it paid off, and sometimes you just got to take the risk, right? I finished this card off with some of the brand new clear drops. These are the ones that don't have any color to them. I added those onto the front of my card using some liquid glue and my dual-tipped embellishment tool. And you can see my finished card project here. It's absolutely beautiful, super dramatic, and it's a great place to kind of hide a gift card on that slide out element. There are a couple of ways that you can put this together, but this is the very basic way to do it. You can also assemble this with that included rectangle that I didn't use in this video, and it kind of slides out and reveals something behind it, but it will cover up that white tabbed portion as you pull it out. So a couple ways to put this together. As I mentioned before, I will have links to the featured products used in this project in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there or head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. I'll have that linked below as well. Over there, you'll find more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this project, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here so you don't miss any of my paper crafting and card making video tutorials. Also, be sure to stop by tomorrow. I'll have another new video tutorial for you featuring that beautiful, nothing but the best floral image I showed you earlier. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.